Good morning. Hello, coders. Yes, today we are going to be playing with versions of PHP. Why not? Why not? It's 7:04 on a Thursday morning, and what I'm going to be doing is we're going to be playing with a design patterns course, and we're going to be preparing for the upgrade to PHP 7.4. Now, let me just show you something. Let's go to, which button am I going to press this time? This one. Okay, so this is the PHP roadmap, okay, for the supported versions. So we are running PHP 7.3, I believe. If I move that over there, can I move that over there? Yeah. So we are running PHP 7.3 on this design patterns course. That's what I've got installed on my system here, PHP 7.3.10. And I reckon this course is probably going to be available some point later in the year. And if we have a look at the supported versions here, we've got 7.2. That's already out of active support. So anybody who's running PHP 7.2, please consider upgrading to at least 7.3. 7.3 here we have we have active support until 10 months. I say active support, but of course there's security support as well. But even security support for 7.2 is quite, in 10 months' time. And active support for 7.3, which we were on, is in 10 months' time, and security support is in a year and 10 months' time. So realistically, by the time this course gets out, because I'm thinking it's probably not going to happen until at the very least the latter point of this year, because there's so much other stuff that I need to do and actually finish building the course, let alone recording the damn thing. I think that it'll be at the time probably close to coming out of active support, and then that kind of leaves us with 7.4. Now 7.4, the initial release was a month ago, greater than a month ago now. And then active support is in a year and 10 months. So even the upgrade to 7.3 to 7.4 is going to put us in a position where we're going to have to consider upgrading it, close to within a year's time at least after it's gone live. And then active support is until the 28th of November 2022. Wow, 2022. It sounds like a sci-fi film. So that's where we're at. That is the short and curlies of it, to be honest. So really, I need to consider upgrading. That's what we're going to do. Hello, Tyrannid. I must say this is getting a bit out of hand. What do you mean? What's getting out of hand? The PHP versions, or or just my streaming in general. So now there's a couple of things that one needs to consider when they're upgrading. Now, if I was to really think about this from the point of view of what's this, the versions? Oh, right. Yeah. So if I was to consider this from the point of view of a client, let's say this wasn't a design patterns course. Let's say this was a client of mine. And I should stress that I do a lot of work on legacy versions of PHP. In fact, last night I was working on PHP 5.6, I think it was. Oh, wow. And that was like... So on my machines here, I have at least 4 different versions of PHP running at any one point, which is really crazy. So it's and some of those clients, they will keep working on PHP, the earlier versions of PHP, and when they do upgrade, they won't be upgrading to the latest and greatest because that's quite a big jump. So unfortunately, this is just the way we live, what we do. And from the perspective of the design patterns course, this is going to be this is not legacy code. This is teaching. This is a teaching piece of material. So I can't be using old versions of legacy code here because there'll be people who will hopefully get this course and expect it to be on the latest and greatest. or the most stable, I should say. So this puts me in a bit of a predicament here because, like I said, I've got multiple versions of PHP running, and I use a tool. I work on Macs a lot, so I use a tool called MacPorts. Now, MacPorts is a wonderful package manager that will allow you to switch between different versions of different packages. Unfortunately, however, and there's always an unfortunately when it comes to these package managers, PHP 7.4 is not in MacPorts, which means that I need to have another version of a package manager in order to get PHP 7.4. Now, I did this earlier on the laptop this week. So on the laptop here, I have got PHP 7.4. I've also got 7.3. I've got 7.2, 7.1, 7.5. 0.9, 5.6, and some earlier ones too. Yikes! And they also have versions of Xdebug and all the extensions and all that jazz for each one of those. Crazy world, isn't it? So I haven't done it on this machine yet. So this machine, usually my streaming machine here, I need to install PHP 7.4, and you do that using Homebrew. And you do a little bit of jiggery-pokery switching between the symlinks of MacPorts to Homebrew, and it's a bit hacky, to be honest. It's not the greatest in the, but this is the way it is. Now, really, what I normally do, if I can get away with it, is I use Docker as a means of, creating Docker containers that have the relevant package versions of all these things. But this is the kicker here. This is a PHP Design Patterns course. This isn't a Docker course. There shouldn't be a requirement for people to know Docker in order to get this course. So I can't even go down that route. But really, we're really getting ahead of ourselves, because before we even do that, we need to make sure that the system, the course itself, is in an acceptable state where an upgrade could even be considered. And this is really the first conversation one should have when they're speaking to a freelance client. It's sort of like, well, yes, moving it to PHP 7.4 is fantastic, but you're on PHP 5, and there is a lot of movement from one to the other, and we need to make sure that the system is robust enough. We need to know what is working, what doesn't work, and all of that stuff. And the only way you can really do that is through auditing of the code, testing of the code, and just sort of, getting to know it and understanding it. Now, obviously, the Design Patterns course, I know it because I've built it. However, because I know it because I've built it, I know that it isn't, in my opinion, acceptable to an upgrade. This is because if we go to the code itself, excuse me, we have. Excuse me, I have still got a cold. We've got so we do have tests. However, we don't have a lot of tests, or we don't have all the tests that we should have. Like, for example, here with the behavioral, we've got a chain of responsibilities, command, iterator, mediator, memento, null object, observer, specification, state, strategy, template, visitor. All right, but with the tests, we're only testing command, iterator, observer, and strategy. So there's a lot of work in order to actually get it to a point where I can say, yeah, okay, let's switch it over now. Okay, with creational, we've got factory and singleton, and structural, we've got adapter and decorator. Fine, but we're missing a lot of stuff here, which means that we need to do some backfilling of some tests. And also I need to check, of course, if I did an ls, where are we? We need to check the PHP Stan as well, static analysis, to see, is this, no, this is vendor, isn't it? I don't have bin. It's vendor. Sorry about this. I need to disable those. Vendor. Why is it capitalized? Odd. Vendor bin. Vendor bin, PHP Stan, I believe. Yep, and it is, let's go right up to level 7. because, you know, why not? And let's test for, I guess, SRC. I guess that's probably the best place. Let's run this. SRC is not defined. What? Is it that? Oh, I need to do, oh, idiot. I need to do analysis, don't I? PHP Stan analysis. Analysis. Yes. Yes, please. There we go. Okay, so we've got 12 errors. So this is how you kind of like you get to know how bad the code is before you consider upgrading it. So there's 12 errors that need to be fixed, really, and there needs to be some tests that need to be written. And if I was to do this, if I was to think about this now from, you know, this Design Patterns course isn't in the wild yet. It's just me doing this. There's nobody being affected by this project whatsoever. I could probably get away with installing PHP 7.4 now, today, and doing all of these fixes, you know, right now, because it's not live. It's not. Nobody's using it. Nobody cares about it. But let's imagine, for instance, somebody is using this code, and I decide that I want to go from, let's say, for example, there was PHP 7.4 here, and I wanted to move it to 7.5 or 7.6 or even 8, right? I would need to have a consideration of the people who are using the code. I couldn't just suddenly change the package constraints in composer.json and just say everybody needs to run PHP 7.4. I don't even think I've got a package constraint on here yet. Without having any tests, because what I don't want to do as a teacher, I don't want to be putting out code which doesn't work, because that would be stupid. So yeah, so I could either do it in two ways. I could either go, okay, I know what the risks are. We've got 12 issues here. We've got 12 PHP Stan issues that are found. Plus, we've got very patchy tests. The question there is that acceptable at this point of time to upgrade to 7.4? If this was out in the wild and there was hardly any tests and there was 12 errors of PHP Stan, I would say, is this acceptable? Certainly not. You know, because of the fear of what might have changed in PHP 7.4 or you know 8 or whatever the version is at the time. You know, I can't do that. I cannot risk that from happening. So I think really, as a good practice, one should have that headspace, even though they're developing the code. And I think that what I'm going to do today is have a look at these issues. And I think today I'm going to have a look at some of the tests as well. There's a lot of issues in the tests itself, which is weird. I might have to exclude those. But I think that's probably where I'm going to go today. Unfortunately, if I go up to here and if I do sudo mac sudo port install 7.4, it's not, it can't be found, and I would have to do sudo port self-update, which I'm not going to do because it's going to update the whole system in order for that to happen. And also there is a sudo port, I think it's a search. Is it a search? Yeah, not found. And yet 7.3, oh, hang on, 7.3. Yeah, 7.3 is found, so we can see that there's 77 ports of 7.3, but 7.4 isn't found. So if I did sudo install of 7.4, then it's not found. So I would definitely need to use Homebrew for this. Unfortunately, which is a pain, an absolute pain when you're having to... I personally prefer Mac ports over Homebrew, personally, because well, for one, it feels a little bit like you're in Linux. You're not having to brew anything, which just seems a bit bizarre. Okay, all right. Let's take a look then. These look like they're tests that are errors. Class example was found while analyzing auto. So this is an auto loading thing. So let's see if I can do that, but with an exclude. Let's see. Let me scroll up. Have I got the words right? No, I haven't. Let's copy that. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Okay, let's see if I can do an exclude of, is it tests? Yep. Exclude doesn't exist. I thought there was an exclude. Oh, that's frustrating, isn't it? Error format, no progress, L level, configuration. So there is a configuration. So is there... no, I'm looking for some sort of configuration to tell PHP Stan not to do this. I thought there was. I might have to Google that. Let me grab some tea at least. Gosh, my throat is dying. Quite right. There is no dumb questions. There is no silly questions. There's only silly answers. That's what I keep saying. There's no silly answers at all. No, there is silly answers. There's no dumb questions. It's too early in the morning. Okay, what I'm looking for PHP Stan config. There must be configuration, installation, first run, rules, extensibility. There must be configuration. Here we go. Oh, PHP Stan.neon. Oh, okay, of course, yeah. Auto loading. Is there excludes analysis? Okay, so this is where you can exclude from. All right, let's build that, shall we? Let's add that in. So where are we? We're in code here. So we need to, at this point, we need to create a PHP Stan dot neon. There we go. And I would like to add it, please. Thank you. And I would like to install the plugin as well. Thank you. Good, good, good. Do I have to rebuild the... Oh, right. Bear with me a minute, everybody. I'm going to have to restart PHP Stan because I did that. Let's just do that. Hopefully that'll fix to the right dimensions. There we go. I was playing with VSCode the other day. Ooh, this is all gone a little bit weird, isn't it? Event logs. Okay. VS Code's all right. It's all right. So, is PHP 5? No. PHP 5 is an old version of PHP. It's very old, and yet so many people still use it. I am looking forward to saying that PHP 7 is legacy. Okay, let's put this in here. Excludes analysis. So we want to exclude tests, I think, in src. It's src tests, isn't it? src tests. And we think we can get away with that. I hope that's all right. Let's see if we can run this now. Okay, so here it did say, I'm sure it did say it was using configuration file. Yeah, so it's using that file. And yet we're still in tests. Maybe it's because it's using the namespace. No. Oh, this isn't going well, is it? Come on. Tests that. Yikes. Right. It's complaining about an auto-loading thing. So I'm just going to run composer install, and hopefully that will. No, it's not. Wow. Wow. Okay. Excludes analysis. Let's exclude files from analysis. If your code base contains some files that are broken on purpose, e.g. to test behavior of your application on files, blah, 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 you can exclude these using exclude analysis array parameter. Fine. String at each line is used as a pattern for the fn match function. Fine. Excludes analysis and so that seems okay. Yet I'm confused as to why this. So if we're running it from code, which is here, we would be in src. But if we're running it from, yeah, it would definitely be src tests. But if we're running it from src, it would be in tests as well. So it would be tests and then sections. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. I need to change those sounds. Class, howtocodewell. Oh, this is frustrating. This really is frustrating because this is just going to be noise now. Luckily, it's gone through 108 things, and these are the only things that it's found, so that's something, I guess. Is there anything I can use for specify paths to scan? Here we go. Autoload directories. PHP Stan uses Composer's autoloader, but by default. Okay, yeah. Analyze autoload file. Exclude files from analysis. Is there like, there isn't a table of contents? No. So I could pass in that when using custom use LL options to analyze. Let's see if I can do that. So we do level and then -c, sorry, and that's PHP Stan.neon. No, it's still an issue because it is still using that. That's frustrating. I might have to look upon that off stream, I think, as to why that is still not adhering to these things. I tell you what, we should be able to put in that, and it should exclude that file, at least. No, it's still picking that up. And if we did src here, which I don't think we need to do because we are already running src. Oh, okay. No. Tell a lie. That has been removed, hasn't it? Because, yeah, so that's now gone down to 11, which means that if I was to put this in here and change that to this one, that should bring it down to 10. That's 11 now, so that should now bring it down to 10. So it is, yeah, it is. So okay, so that's where we need to start from, src tests, which kind of makes sense. So we need some way of creating a pattern that matches. Like, we can't just do that, unfortunately. For some reason, we can't seem to get away with that. If I did this, then it's going to go back up to 12. So we need some way of pattern matching, which is a shame. So let me see. Excluding files from analysis. Here we can use this stuff. Okay. So we could do sections, structural, and I wish I wonder if I could do blobs like that. Is that going to work? No. Okay. Let's put that in as reference. So structural would be that one there. Adapter would be that one there. And then it would be .php. 11. Oh, yeah, because of that one there. Yikes. FN match. Let's see if we can have a look at that. FN match matches file names against a pattern. The pattern is the shell wildcard pattern. So I'm just seeing if there's any examples here of how I could use some pattern matching to match all of those things. This is like really nuts stuff just to get this to run, just to exclude bits and pieces here. So preg match on a quote, passing in slash, dot slash, and then, so all of these things are valid. I'm guessing dot asterisk is anything here. More than what if this is proper regex, which I think it is. So let's do dot. I don't think that's valid, but we'll give it a go. No. Nope. This is just trial and error now, isn't it? All right. I think I'm going to take this off stream because this is just going to irritate me, I think, of how we can exclude things. I'm sure I've done it before, but it's just going to be frustrating. Oop. Excuse me. Okay, so with the knowledge that PHP Stan is throwing 11 errors already, I mean, one thing I could do, I suppose, is fix the errors, right? But I don't really want PHP Stan to be worrying about the tests because the tests shouldn't really be worried about because the tests are meant to have broken code in, sometimes at least. Maybe there is a way I can just take a look at this. So test sections behavioral command example shopping cart.php, the class was not found whilst analyzing it. There's a problem probably with auto loading. So the tests here, we're in sections behavioral, and this one is the command, and this is example shopping cart process. This is because it it doesn't have a namespace. Which probably means the other ones don't. Okay, I'm not going to fix these things, not on stream. I don't think there's any need to. I think what I'm going to do is change my focus and have a look at actually writing more tests rather than fixing PHP Stan. Let's take a look at what we have here. So if we go to have I created a README file for this? Probably not. No. That needs to be added, a README file. So these tests, they look like they are test cases, which are PHP unit. So if we did let's see if I can do a reverse search. I haven't used this machine in a few days, so I'm hoping that PHP unit, okay. All right, so there are 36 tests, 42 assertions, and 1 error already, which is the backup phone number observer. All right, let's fix that first. That's probably the most important thing. So in terms of analyzing the code, I'm going to delete that. We know that there is errors analyzing code. This is all sort of giving me less and less confidence of doing an upgrade, quickly, at least on this stream. So, how to code well sections, behavioral observer, and it was observer test, and it was line 25, which is here. Yes, so backup phone number observer. If I was to hit this and run that, oh, damn, sorry, I should update my, I'll do that in a minute. That probably needs to be back up. Nope. So, saving users' phone numbers, sending a welcome SMS message. Let's see, this is in behavioral tests, user registration observer. This would be up in here, sections, behavioral, and it would be in observer, which is this one, and it would be user registration, and it would be backup phone number, which we don't have. So let's take a look at the view here. No, I got update phone number. There we go. That's the name of it. Update phone number, not backup, which is this one here. Okay, so going back to not the test case, the observer test. Scroll. Do I have update phone number? I don't. I think that is what we need to do. So let's just put it back on the path here. Update phone number observer. Assert same probably isn't going to work. Let me just run that again. No, that does work. Let me just double check. That message should be the same message as what the observer process receives. So if we go to event user phone number is this process, that is the same message. Yes, that is correct. Yes, excellent. Okay, cool. So that's that one test done, which is good. They all work. One thing I've just discovered on this box, of course, is well, let's just tidy that up. Yeah, optimize imports, run. Okay, that can go. I don't think we need that. Okay, so one thing I've noticed on this is that, I'm running the thing through command line here, which is perfectly fine. However, there is, if I was to click on PHP Storm's run buttons here and go run this test, it's going to throw up this error. Well, it's not an error. This screen here, which I'm glad you can see on the stream. This is because I haven't actually set it up. So let me see if I can do that now, because that will probably help as things go on. I mean, you might as well use the tools as they were intended. So, okay, this is because there is no default interpreter in this project. Press fix to edit your configuration. So let's hit fix, and yikes, there's a lot of things. This is the include path. So the interpreter here is PHP 7.3. We're going to hit apply. We're going to hit OK, and we're going to hit apply, and we're going to hit run. And can you see that? That's now ran, and it has passed. Which means now, if we externally added files to Git, which files are those? PHP unit result cache. That can be ignored. .php unit result cache. Thank you. We're not going to add that in. Okay, but what I've just done here, which is pretty cool, is now I should have the ability now to click on these and hit run, and it's going to run the individual test cases, which is super handy when you're working in this IDE. It means that I won't have to jump into PHP into the command line. I can just do it from PHPStorm, which is super easy. And I should say that well, I shouldn't say that it's super easy because nothing is, but I should say that other things, VS Code, Eclipse, all of that, they do all this as well. It's not just PHPStorm. Okay, so that's gone through, and if I should be able to go through all of them. Yeah, 3 tests and they've all passed, which is nice. Okay, let's take a look then at what needs to happen. So we've got chain of responsibilities. Do we have any tests for chain of responsibilities? No. We've got command, we've got iterator, we don't have mediator, we don't have mento, we don't have null object, we don't have state specification or strategy. Oh no, we do have strategy. We don't have template, and we don't have we do have structural. So there's a lot here that needs to go through. I think we should probably work from the top here. I'm not going to worry about testing the views because these are not really, and if I was, these would be acceptance tests rather than unit tests. I want to just focus on the unit tests for now. Okay, so we've got these things here. So this is the handler, password handler. This is chain of responsibilities. I think this is the one we did last time. So let's break this one up a little bit. So we've got this user here, and I can see that set roles isn't used, which is a bit worrying. And this is another thing why tests are really good, because they force you to have a look at the code, and they force you to see where things could be changed and altered and refactored. We've got this user exists handler here with a process passing in the user. So the user itself needs to be tested. This is just a bunch of getters and setters, to be honest. There is another unused element there as well, which is a bit weird. Roles handler, how can we test that? Will we pass in the user? We have the roles. So we have get roles here, but do we have set roles? We've got get roles, we've got set roles, but set roles doesn't seem to be used. If we go to the view, okay, so we're instantiating a new user here, passing in the username and the password, and then here we have what looks like the roles. I'm having to refresh my memory here. So when we instantiate the new user up here, scroll, 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 we have roles, and we're setting roles. Ah, okay. So we could run set roles like this, or we could just get rid of it. So I think we can probably get rid of that. I reckon. I don't think it's used. And the same with set username. If we had a look at the here, there's no call to set username. It's just an instantiation. Okay. So there's some areas that we can tidy up. I'm going to do that now. Actually, first of all, before I do, let's run this code and actually see if it works. That would help, wouldn't it? So in this case, I am going to go into the terminal. Let me see if I can do it from here, actually. So code, navigation, view, tools, and it's F12. There we go. Let me just come away from that. There we go. That's what I want. So it is a reverse search of PHP-S. There we go. Chain of responsibilities. Oh, it's on that already. So let's press that run and then click on here. And I don't know why that came over there. Let's bring this over there. So here we go. We can see that it has the output of true. So now we can actually, we've got something to, because we don't have a test on this, we can hack this up. So we can remove that, and we can probably remove this as well. Okay, hit save. I've got a feeling this is going to be fine, but you know, you need to have some sort of feedback loop at least. So yeah, that works. Okay, so let's see. Let's go about and actually create a test for this. So in sections behavioral, it is chain of responsibilities. I'm just going to grab that because my spelling is appalling. I'm going to refactor, rename, copy that, come down here, into behavioral, go new, directory, paste that in. There we go. Okay, so we're going to test the user. And we're going to do PHP file, and we're going to do user. And actually, no, we shouldn't have done that. That should have been user test. Let's refactor that again. That should be, whoa, we're refactoring the wrong thing. This one here. Refactor, rename, user test, like so. And let's just grab that at least. Bung it up there, close that off, remove all of this, put user test there, and I think we need to have, yeah, it starts with test, doesn't it? So let's just put it in public function test, and what are we going to test? We're going to test the instantiation and then the getters, so get password, get roles, that kind of thing. So if we go to here, we can do test get roles. And then down here, what we do, this is PHPStorm. Gnome Jodas. This is PHPStorm. And that is a cold cup of tea. So what we can do is we do user here equals new user. And we do, so we can set the username, Peter. The password is 1234. And the roles, we're going to have foo, and we're going to have bar. No, because I said last time we weren't going to do that, because foo and bar doesn't really make any sense. Admin and user, whatever. So user, so this assert is array. We're going to make sure that user get roles is an array first of all. Then we're going to do, this assert. Can we do contains? Admin and user get roles. Wonderful. Let me see if we can run that. Run get roles. Scroll, scroll, scroll. We have one test, two assertions. They've all passed. Wonderful. Okay. So this is test get roles. And what else do we have up on here? We've got get roles, and we've got get password, set password, all of this stuff. I know this is pretty noddy stuff because it's just like testing the accessors. And one could argue that when we get to PHP 7.4, this would be things like, strings, and this would be strings, and that would be an array. And then, there would be an argument as to whether or not to have all these getters and setters, because we would just put us passing these in here. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We need to think about this in the sense of get password of this is a project that's out in the wild here, and it's going to be upgraded, and I would prefer to have more tests than no tests, so again we're gonna just copy. I might as well just copy that like that, and we're gonna do this assert same, and this is 1 2 1 2 3 4, and this get password, and I'm not sure. I don't think that will run, because that should be this at least, and that needs to be camel cased, of course. No, because that is a string and that is an integer. So let's change that to be a string. Yep. Okay, next one. Very similar to this, I suppose. It is the password, set password, get. So there's a set password as well. There is also a get username here. Let's run the username. Get test get username. So the username is Peter. Get username. Boom. And run that, and that works fine. Okay, cool. All right. So I want to have a look at this set of the password. Where is this being called? What's calling that? Because surely not, the password gets set in there. So what's going on here? If we go to the index, set password isn't being ran here, and yet it's not highlighted as an unused mechanism. So I'm going to do find in path in here in behavioral, and I'm going to run set password. It's only being used in one particular place here, which is quite weird because PHPStorm would normally highlight this as an unused method. So I'm a little bit skeptical. So let's take a look at test. Let's earmark that, and let's put a at to do requires test, right? And then let's take a look at the other aspects of the chain of responsibility. So with a handler, what we're doing here is we are setting the successor. We're passing in the handler here. And we have a final function, which is handle. Okay, so that it's not there. Password handler itself, we have get password, and we've got get username and process. Return if the user's get username is not the same as that. Okay, gotcha. Then, okay, so we could test this. I think on the handler, is there any constructor? No, there isn't. Okay, so yeah, I think we could probably test that, the password handler. So what I want to do is try and get as many tests as possible, and then go back to that set password. And if none of my tests touch it, then I will remove it. Handler test. Okay, handler test, password handler test. Okay, why is that duplicated code? Oh, no matter. Okay, so we have a new password, come on, handler. And it doesn't have any parameters, I don't think. No, but it does have process, so we pass in a user. So we do need, I've gone and deleted it now, but we do need to have that user. So let's do handler. Let's just copy that from here and go into there. Bum, bum, bum. So that's the new user. And we do handler. Handler process passing in the user, injecting the user into there. Now that's going to return true or false. So I could do assert true, and we'll change that to be test process. And what is that checking for? It's checking whether or not the username, if this user's username, so Peter, is equal to that. So that should be 1234, which should return false. So this should assert false because the password is 1234, not password 1234. So that should return false. So that should be test incorrect. Test process with incorrect password. All right, let's run that. Okay, so that's worked. So let's now run this again, but this time have it with test process with correct password. With correct password. The correct password would be password 1234. That should now return true. All right, let's run that. And that is the case. That's all good. Good. Awesome. Just going through the code, the comments, sorry. I do appreciate I haven't had my eye on this. Yes, I'm using PHPStorm. PHPStorm is I was going to swear there. PHPStorm is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I love it to bits. I have been playing with Visual Code on my laptop a little bit. It's okay. It's just because a client that I was seeing last week was using it, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be good if I used it as well? So I used it, and it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I just think that my comfort zone is this PHPStorm. But at the time I was doing a lot of React stuff, and it just kind of worked better than PHPStorm, because PHPStorm is obviously based on PHP. So doing anything that isn't PHP in PHPStorm is a little bit clunky sometimes. So I was doing a bit of React, and that felt nice in VS Code. And also I was working on some Markdown stuff the other day. I was writing some documentation, and I was using VS Code, and I was loving the preview screens, which is good. So yeah, I'm kind of on the fence, but I think I'm going to stick with PHPStorm because that's where that's my bread and butter, to be honest. I think if I was to do more front end stuff, then I would probably consider using WebStorm over VS Code, just because of the way it feels like PHPStorm. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter what you use. You could even use Notepad. You know, it's there. You shouldn't see these things as barriers of entry. You shouldn't see, oh, I can't be a coder because I haven't got a subscription to PHPStorm. And subscription, you have to pay for PHPStorm. You don't, of course, with Visual Code. But there we go. Kiwi, hello. What's my opinion on Node.js? Fine. I've used it before. It's okay. I don't use JavaScript on the back end. So I don't write Node on the back end because if I wanted to, I would write PHP or Python. I think. You know, I don't want to poo-poo it because there's a lot of good things with writing JavaScript on the server. It's just not where my expertise lie. If I'm using JavaScript, if I'm writing JavaScript, I'm writing it because I want to create a front end, be it a mobile application or something else, or change the behavior of a website. However, saying that, where I've used Node in things like bots, right? So I've created a couple of bots. I've created one for the Discord server, and that's in Node.js. and it kind of feels nice. It feels nice. Other areas where I would consider Node, or I would consider Node type things, is Electron. So if you're writing like an Electron application, then obviously you could use all sorts of stuff, right? But because you're writing an application which is a desktop application, it kind of feels like you're writing back-end code, because you're dealing with things like file management, and you're dealing with processes, and you're dealing with all of that jazz. It feels more back-endy than front-endy, because if you think of all the things that an Electron app does, it's quite heavily based on the file system and the operating system and the layers and the security and all of that jazz, which just feels a bit more back-endy, in my opinion. But they all have their places. They all have their goods and their bads. I'm not one of these people who say, "Oh, I don't like this and I'll never use it." I'll use the right tool for the right job. This is why I know PHP and Python, and I know JavaScript and stuff. But if I was to write code on the back end, it would probably be Python or PHP. I hope that answered your question. That's a little bit more of a hard line than me. Kiwi saying that they think that Node.js shouldn't exist, but they love it. Fair enough. Fair dues. Okay, so we've tested the the password handler. I don't think there's anything else that I need to do here on the password handler itself. There's just the process method here. Okay, so the roles handler. Let's see if we can test this out. So this is where we inject a user here, and we're checking the role. If in array we get the roles, that returns true or false. So we can test this one at least. So let's pass that in. We'll copy the password handler, which changed that to roles handler. Okay. Let me delete that, and this is a roles handler. So we're instantiating a new user object, and we're asserting that this handler is false based on these roles. So let me just double check. The roles need to have admin in order to be true. So in here, in there, we need to have that would return false. So let's change that to just be user. That should return, that should be successful. Let's run this. And that was successful, so let's do it the other way. So test process with correct role. With incorrect role. So the incorrect role is, sorry, what am I doing? This is with incorrect role, because that's false, isn't it? Yeah, with incorrect role, and incorrect is one word. This is correct with correct role, and correct role here would be admin. So that would return true, I hope. Come on. So let's run that. And yeah, that's passed. Oh, that's it. So that's a nice little combination you're discussing there, Kiwi. The desktop assistant in Electron using Node.js and maybe React. That sounds like a really nice one. Do let us know how you get on with. Do let us know how you get on with that. Put your if you write a blog post or anything, then do certainly link it to the coding resources in the Discord channel. That would be super if you could do that. Okay, so the password handler and the roles handler are tested. Password handler and the roles tested. We have a user exists test as well. So it's user exists handler. Let's test that. user exists handler test. Test process with test process with known user. Sorry, user exists handler. That's what we want here. Passing in that. Okay, so let's just check this. Let's go. So it's Peter or Jim. So this is going to return true or false whether or not that username is in that array. So Peter is in, so that should return true, like that. And let's just quickly do another one. Test process with unknown user. Let's put in a user called Todd. That should return false. Like that. Okay, let's run this one first. That should be passing. And run this one as well. That should also be passing too. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so that's the password handler, the roles handler, the user exists handler, and the user itself. So they're tested. What about the handler? Can I test the handler? So what we're doing here in the chain of responsibilities, what we've done is we've tested the individual responsibilities, but we haven't tested the chain. So here we have the set successor handler, and if we had a look at the index here, we can see what happens is you instantiate the handlers, and then you set the handler's successor, and then you create the users, and then you handle based on the user. So that's what I need to test. What we need to do then is test the actual handler itself. So let's go, and I'll just copy that, put in handler here. Handler test. So this is a new handler. Handler. Why isn't that picking that up? Handler should be up here, surely. Handler. Oh, it's abstract. That's why you can't instantiate an abstract class. Of course not. Okay. How would I test that? I would have to pick. Let's say, for example, the password handler, and I would have to do. So handler 1, I would need to create a new handler. Let's take a look. How does this view do it? It's it's roles and then password. Let's mimic that. So in handler test, here we go. So this is roles handler, and then this is password handler. So that's handler 1, handler 2. And we are then doing handler 1, set successor handler 2. There we go. And then down here we do process. Now process of handler 1. After process, it's going to then it's going to return that as true. If I go back up to the top here, I'm just trying to recap. Remember what I did here. Handle. Okay. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it's not process. It's handle, isn't it? Yeah. So it's instead of that, it is handle. And we handle the user, which then runs the process, which then gotcha. And then here we do if response and is successor, then we. Fine. Okay, I see it. So what we need to do then is we need to make sure that they work for both processes. So in the handler test, we want to make sure that we've got the roles, which I think is admin, and we've got the password handler, which is that one there, which means that that should return true. So correct with test process with correct password and roles. Okay, so let's run that. That should now run through both of the handlers in time, which it does. So let's see if we can break it. Let's see if we can run it with correct password and incorrect roles. Incorrect roles. So we're going to have the role here. No, let's do correct roles and incorrect password. Is that the way I've done it up here in index? Sorry, I'm going backwards and forwards. I do appreciate this. Sorry. Password handler. Set the successor of the password handler to. So that's handler 1. That's handler 2. Gotcha. I've done this in the wrong order, haven't I? So in handler test, that should be password is. Yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it? That should be handler 1. Whoops. No. That should be handler 1. And that should be handler 2. There we go. Let me just quickly run that, make sure that that is still passing. That's still passing. Okay, so now let's flip those around. Let's copy that. Like that. Okay, now here, let's put that down there. Let's do it with an incorrect role. Now the roles, I believe, if I go to roles handler, need to have admin. So if I go into here and just change that to be user, that should be an incorrect role. So that should return false. So I'm going to just run this, and hopefully this is going to fail. So we're going to run that here, which it is, because this is, and I just want to make sure that handler test on line 29, which is that one there, is failing. And it's failing because false should be true. Yeah, or true should be false, sorry. Yep, false. And it's because of that changing of the role. Run it again, and it's passed. Wonderful. Okay, so I think we've covered the chain of responsibilities now. That's pretty cool. However, there is this anomaly. If I go up here, we've got this get password. Set password. And I haven't written any tests for this at all, and I can't see it being used. So I'm going to remove it. I'm going to remove it, and we're going to just run. We're going to run the tests again. So we have now 11 tests. I ran the whole chain of responsibilities. 11 tests, 12 assertions. They all passed. So that's good. And also I'm going to do a visual check and just refresh the page. And that's working as well. So there we go. I'm just going to pop down and grab another cup of tea because this tea is very cold and my throat is very dry. But when we get back, I'm going to work on some more bits and pieces for the tests. I'll probably work on we've done the command already, haven't we? So I might have to I'll work on something else of the tests. But the point of this stream is to try and bring up the confidence. So I think the chain of responsibilities is good. But anyway, I'm babbling. I will get some tea, and then I'll also check you're talking about Apple stuff. So I've got a couple of opinions on that. So I'll talk about that as well when I get back. I'll see you all in just a second. Hello. I have my tea. Second tea of the day. I wish my cold would just go away. Throat is a bit sore this morning. So, I'm going to go through some of the comments on the chat before I get into the more of the code. Some discussion about Apple and Google. So let's talk about Apple. So Kiwi's saying, "Are you a fan of Apple products?" So Apple products. So I'm a fan of the iMac. I'm a fan of the MacBook Pro. However, I've used Linux Mint. I've laptops that just have Linux Mint on or Ubuntu. So that's fine. I think I would be okay with a Linux box. I prefer Mac over Windows, just because I haven't used Windows in years. I used to, when I started out as a dev, I used to use Windows. In fact, when I started out as a dev, I used Windows for a long time, for years, and then we moved to Linux. And so what I was doing was I was using a virtual machine with a copy of Ubuntu on it. That helped me learn Linux. Then I did LPIC and other things like that. And then I went straight native Linux for about 4 years, working on just pure Linux. It was Linux Mint on the laptop and Linux on the servers. That was really, really good. That you went straight into the deep end there. And then when I started building mobile applications that needed to be running on Apple, like Xcode, that kind of stuff, you kind of need to have an Apple product for that, and therefore that started off the Macs and the iMacs, which I've got here, and other various bits and pieces. But I use Android as a phone. I don't use an iPhone, and I have an iPhone for testing, but partly it's because I don't really want to be fully invested in the Apple ecosystem. However, there has been many times where I've thought that I should be. I should just, accept my fate and become an Apple person, and get the AirPods and all of that jazz. And I might have to. I may do that. I nearly said had to. No, I don't have to do it. I may do that when I upgrade my phone next time, because there are certain things that I have done where I've thought, I wish I had an iPhone. Like, for example, I've done a couple of my YouTube videos on my phone, on my Android phone, and it's just been an absolute chore to try and get my video from my Android phone to my iMac to then do the encoding and do the editing. It's been an absolute pain. Whereas if I had the Apple ecosystem, it would just sort of seamlessly sync from one machine to the next. The AirPods, I've never used them, but they seem awesome. They sound great, from what I can tell. Also, Kiwi's saying, also, do you think Google is in it just for the money, or do they somewhere? Yeah, they care about their customers, man. Google cares about its customers. Same with Apple. Everybody who has customers who is doing well should care about their customers. I think that if they were just doing it for the money, then they would have just probably, they would have made really subpar products. But the stuff that they've got isn't subpar. Same with Apple. They all have their agendas, sure, but I think that they're not just in it for the money. They're in it for the good. And actually, the developers who I've spoken to, who are Google employees, they are incredibly passionate about what they're doing. The developer advocates that I've spoken to at Google and Amazon, and also at Microsoft, they are incredibly passionate about the future of the web, the future of the internet, and how the decisions that they're making are tailoring the future of the web, and they are very passionate and they care a lot about it. So if you're interested, I have a podcast every Friday, and I've spoken to Amazon employees, I've spoken to Google employees, and I'm hoping to speak to some Microsoft employees in the future, some more. So go to howtocodewell.fm to get that podcast, and I talk about their background. We have a discussion about their background and their passion, and it becomes very apparent that they care deeply, tremendously about the web. It's not they're working for organizations that are fundamental cornerstones of the internet, and it's brilliant to see their initiatives and their ideas trickle down to us web developers. So I will leave that down as a link here. Let me see if I can get into the comments. Let's do put that in. So that is a podcast. It's howtocodewell.fm. It's a Friday show. We're on season 3. Cool. So hang on, I'm clicking things about now. I shouldn't really be doing that. Let's drag that down a wee bit. There we go. So yes, so they do sell information. Those companies, definitely. I mean, data is a financial good. So it is. But they are very. I mean, we're now getting into the data privacy sort of discussion, and I don't really know as to how much they get away with, how much they sell, how much they say they do that they don't. I don't know any of that, to be honest. But if you've got Facebook, then really you've kind of blown a big part of the privacy stuff anyway. So I think that a lot of the emphasis is on the end user to understand what kind of data you're actually giving away. Because at the end of the day, it's you who's giving that data away. And the choice boils down to yourself rather than and what services you use. You can make that decision. Anyway, let's move back onto the code here. So we've done the chain of responsibilities. We've done the excuse me. Wow. We've done the command, I think. Have we done the command example of the shopping cart process? Yes, we have. Have we done the iterator? Yes, we've done the iterator. Wonderful. Okay. Have we done the... now, I'm just like seeing that we've got classes. I'm not actually seeing what level of tests that they have. That's a completely different story. I think what I should do eventually is have some code coverage to actually see what is tested and what hasn't been tested. But it's quite obvious when you don't have a folder with no tests in to say that it isn't been tested. So like this one, for example, we've got the mediator. The mediator is just a blank folder. So let's have a look at that. Okay, let's have a look at that. We've got colleague A, colleague B, the mediator, and we've got a parent colleague interface. Okay, so, and we have the view here. Let's have a look at the view. So the view is, we've got both of these colleagues here, and we pass them in, we inject them into the mediator, and we perform. We say perform start, and that is performing a conversation between colleague A and colleague B. So on here, we have a bunch of rules here. So we have event starts. So this colleague B, we're setting the recipient and we're performing actions. So this is the whole point about the mediator pattern, is that you can, based on these rules, this algorithm here, you can perform various actions based on the value of the event that you supply. So, and you get to you can notify the other objects here. So you setting the mediators based on on the colleagues, and you perform the action, and say that's the perform action A, you then pass that back to this mediator notify, which then goes back to the mediator here, which then changes the event, which then notifies the other object. Parent colleague, let's have a look at this. Have I just created this as a sort of a placeholder thing? I think I have here, so we can set the mediator, and you've got the constructor going on there. Fine. Colleague A, is there anything interesting in here that I can run as tests, sort of in isolation? This has the various performances, perform the various actions, I should say. So, okay, so can we test the name? Excuse me. So how do we instantiate that? If we go to colleague A, so we instantiate in colleague A. Colleague A has the parent colleague as an extension. We're passing in the mediator, and that can be null. Because we've got a setter here, okay, but there is a name here, get name. What's get name? Oh, name is up here, so we have the private property here, name. That could just be a constant, surely not. Why is that a variable? That could be a constant because we're not setting it. Okay. And then here we've got some some actions. So perform start. So this is returning the log, isn't it? So we've got hello, is anybody out there, question mark. And then here we're calling back mediator to start that event. So we could test for that. We could test certainly for the name. Let me have a look up here. The mediator itself gets injected when we instantiate. When we instantiate the colleague, we don't have the mediator, so that doesn't happen. However, we can set it. Okay, that kind of makes sense. No worries, Kiwi. You have a good night. And I will speak to you later on the Discord server. No problems. It's weird knowing that these I'm looking at this code and I'm thinking, what on earth have I done? What's going on here? So this mediator notify is the problem I've got is that this mediator may not be set, and so I'm wondering why on earth have I done this, and why haven't I actually put it as a single function? Like that code and that code is exactly the same. It just changes the event. So I'm going to hack this up a bit. I mean, it just looks like a code smell. And why are we echoing? Why aren't we returning this as a string? Because I can't test this. I would have to test yeah. Lots of problems. Let's go and run this in the terminal. Nope. I was trying to be clever then and using shortcut keys. So we're going to close that down and we're going to run. It's behavioral. It is mediator. Mediator. and it is concept, and it is view, and it is index. It is not a directory. What? Oh, it needs to be a directory, doesn't it? Silly me. There we go. All right, so this is the mediator concept. So you've got hello, is there anybody out there? That's colleague A. Colleague B is saying, hello, colleague A, how are you? Colleague A is saying, fine, I need to go. Speak to you soon. Have a Merry Christmas, colleague B. Colleague B said, good. Goodbye, colleague A. Have a great holiday. Wonderful. But this needs to be returned. This is coming out as echoes. So that's the first thing I want to change. And also I want to run this notify in some sort of better way. So let me write some failing tests. This would be perfect for failing tests. So on the mediator, we're going to create a new test. Well, let's just copy one of these things. And this is colleague A test here. Test colleague A perform start. All right, let's get rid of all that. Right, so this is a new colleague A. Now, this is a colleague A, and I can't spell colleague. So we're not going to worry about the mediator. We're just going to. I just want to worry about. So this is a same. I just want to worry about that that return. So colleague A perform start. Now that should return that, but it doesn't. So I'm going to just grab that. Actually, also what I need to test as well, of course, is the name. So let's do that. Let's do that first. Test colleague name. Test colleague A name. A name. That's probably the. Let's do this in small chunks first. So this is get name. Okay. So this needs to be. I think the name of colleague A is colleague A. That would make sense, wouldn't it? So that is the expected result. Okay, let's run this. And that's fine. Let's bring that up so I can actually see it a little bit more. I don't understand why there's so much space here. It's annoying when you're streaming and you've got that. It has to scroll up and down all the time. So that works. That's colleague A test. So that's the name. So the next one we want to do is perform the start. So we want to do colleague A perform start. Now, this is start of colleague A, but we're not supplying the mediator. This should return this string here. So the name here is colleague A. Now this is going to fail miserably because if we were to run that, call to member function notify on null. So this is the problem. This is the problem here. It's because we don't have the mediator instantiated, passed in. And if we think about single responsibilities and stuff like that, I don't want that. I don't want the mediator in at the moment. So we need to refactor this somewhat. What we could do as a way of refactoring this is we could do public function, or even a protected function, notify. And in fact, what we could do is, because this is based on a parent colleague, we could even put it in here as a public function notify. And probably notify isn't the right word for it, but the idea is that I want to move this into here, and I want to supply the event type as a string, and this is going to do this mediator notify, passing in here. Now, the other problem is, of course, that we are supplying this being this current class. So we need to also supply a colleague EAGUE, colleague here. It's a colleague interface. So we have this. Oops, there's a missing arrow there. Sorry, missing comma. So this mediator notify the colleague of the event type. Now this can only run if we have a mediator. So if this mediator is an instance of mediator, right? This means that this is only going to run if we have the mediator, right? Which means now that I can work with these classes in isolation. So this here, I can change that to become this notify, passing in this, passing in the event, like so. So if I was to comment that out and then run this again, it should go back as what it is, which is fine. And now if I was to run the test, we should have another error. We'll still get an error, but the error should be different here. So if I was to run that, we get this: failed asserting that null is identical to colleague A. Hello, is there anybody out there? This is because we're not returning this here. So what we need to do is we need to supply this as a message. Now this is probably going to break, and we need to return the message after we've done the notification. So let's run that. Yeah, that has broken that. But if we were to run this, a setting that the strings are equal y, click to see the difference. Okay, there looks like there is, oh, it's because that is a new line. Okay, let's run that again. All right, so that's passed. However, I've gone and broken this completely. So what I need to do is I need to go into here, and where we're doing the pre-tags on perform start, what I kind of need to do is I kind of need to set this as an array of things and then print that array out, I think. So, which is a bit frustrating. So I think what I'm going to do is create an array of things. Need to think about this a little bit. the mediator should, I think the mediator should hold the messages. I think. And so I think we need to do private messages like this as an array. And we're not running PHP 7.4, but that's an array. Messages is an array. And I think what I need to do is I need to have a public function add message. And the message is going to be a string. Like that. Message. This messages, and we're going to do a sort of a pop on that, and then we're going to return. No, we don't need to return anything. That's just void. So when it gets to this point here, we create the message, but we can also do this mediator. Now, obviously, mediator doesn't. Oh, this is tricky because the mediator doesn't exist yet. Maybe then what we need to do is have another class to hold the messages. Yeah, all right, I think that's probably wise. And then inject that into the colleagues. So we're going to create a message queue. A message queue class, and the message queue is just going to have, let's grab that for the time being. Message queue. It's not going to extend or implement anything yet, I don't think. But it will have a private set of messages, which is the array. And we're going to just copy from the mediator here that and remove that. And in the message queue, we're going to just bung that in here. So we have add message. And then what we can do is we have public function get messages. And that is going to return the array of messages. So this messages. Okay. All right. So I'm just hacking code up together at the moment. So the idea here, excuse me, is that we have our message queue. And we're going to inject the message queue into colleague A and colleague B. And colleague A, they up here, there we go, mediator. So let's put in message queue like that. So this is then a private message queue, like so. And we pass that in. So this message queue is equal to message queue, which means now I should be able to in the actual colleagues themselves, I should be able to, at this point here, I should be able to do this. This message queue, this, is that public or protected? I forget. Maybe not. Let's go back up to parent colleague here. So we've got message queue. Message queue is private. Let's set that to protected. So here we have this message queue. Add. Why isn't that working? This message queue. Have I not put the type on that? No, I haven't. See, this is where PHP 7.4 would work, because you would put the type there. Message queue. Okay, right. Here, add message. Thank you. Putting in the message. There we go. Right. Boom. Okay. And then we wouldn't necessarily need to worry about the return of this. So in fact, that could just be void, because we're adding the message to the queue, and then we're notifying that, which means that therefore that on index we need to also do a what's going on here? Method call one parameter. What? Colleague has two, message queue and mediator. What are you talking about? Method call is provided 1 parameters, but method signature uses 0 parameters. No, because it implements the parent colleague. The parent colleague has 2, message queue and mediator. So I don't understand. Not sure what that's about, to be honest. But the idea here is that we would have for each. My T is going cold. I need to sort that out. We would have message queue, get messages as message, and we would print that out. So we would do print. In fact, we could probably go one step further and do print a UL like that. LI, and this would be message LI, and then this would be print close UL, something like that. Let me grab my tea. All because these tests don't work. Refresh. Okay, fatal error. Add message on null. Call to a member function. Add message on null on colleague A on line 27. Colleague A on line 27 here. Add message. You're saying that this message queue is null. Message queue is defined up here. Message queue. Is it because, and this message queue, is it because I need to run PHP composer against this? Let me see. CD into code, howtocodewell, courses, and what did I call this one? I just want to bring that down there just because I want to get that off stream. There we are, PHP Design Patterns. There we go. So let's run composer install just to see if there's anything problematic with the composer. Could not find a composer.json file. Yeah, because it needs to be in the code repo. It's the auto-loading file. I just want to make sure that the auto-loading file is okay. Run that. No, it's still a problem. What's going on here then? Fate uncall member function add message on null. What's going on? So this is saying that message queue is null. This message queue. It's protected. I mean, let's do a getter, public function. Get message queue. Return this message queue. Right. So now in colleague A, we do this get message queue, add message. Surely that must work. No. Must be an instance of howtocodewell. So it's the same thing, isn't it? It's the same. Null is not it's not being set for some reason. So class A extends parent colleague. Let's go back to school here. Let's go back to basics. So we've got message queue, we've instantiated that, and we've got colleague A and colleague B. Colleague A, we're passing message queue in, same with colleague B. But here, this is complaining about the method call has provided one parameter. I like the way that says one parameters. But the method signature uses 0 parameters. Okay, so the method signature, it's not technically a method. Well, it is because it's a constructor, isn't it? So colleague A extends colleague parent colleague. And parent colleague has a constructor, and the constructor has the message queue. And this is our two. This is the signature that it's speaking of. So either I'm doing something completely crazy, or something has gone really, really badly wrong. Message queue, and let's have a look at yep, so that's all fine. Message queue itself is declared correctly. It's just that. I mean, this could just be array access for all of that, or an iterator. We are instantiating a new colleague A. Colleague A is up here. Concept. Colleague A. Yep, so that's correct. So n is equal to new colleague A. See, it's not asking me to put in that is public function constructor. What is going on? It's like it's not even adhering to this constructor. What happens if I take this constructor out and put it into the actual colleague A itself? Is that going to do anything? No, still not. This is very bizarre. All right, let's do a var dump of message queue. It's not getting to that point. It's not even getting to this point. Message queue is message queue. Have I done something completely and utterly just bonkers? Absolutely bonkers. Because it's not. These are all spelt correctly, right? Let's do a rename. Yeah. Okay, what about, it's not abstract. That's not abstract. Okay, how about setting it rather than using the constructor? How about using something like public function, and do this in the parent as well? In the parent, so both of them have them. So we do it's public function set. Message queue, passing in the message queue. That's so weird. And it's just this message queue is equal to message queue. Very strange. Very, very, very strange. So colleague A set message queue. Okay, so it's there now. So if we do message queue on that, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's not in a constructor or not, but that's so strange, isn't it? Colleague B. Right. Okay, let's see if we can run that now. So yeah, that I'm absolutely baffled, and I'll probably look back on this stream and go, oh, that's what was the problem, but I can't think of it right now, which is so weird. But anyway, we're now building up this. We're now building up the list, which means that now I should be able to have on the notify here. I should be able to get the. I should be able to at least test the message queue. Because we're passing that into there. So going back to the tests here on colleague A, let's run that. So that's failed. Get message queue must be an instance of howtocodewell mediator. Message queue null is returned. Get message queue. Why? What's going on here? Get message queue must be an instance. Oh yeah, this is because I need to do message queue is equal to new message queue gotcha, and we need to pass that in as the argument here. So set message queue is message queue. So now I should be able to do message queue, and it should be able to do this. Assert is array. First of all, we do message queue get messages, and we should also do this assert contains passing in this as the needle of that message queue. Like that, I think. So after we've done the perform start, so we do colleague A perform start, and then we check whether that's in the message queue or not. So this assert contains needs to be in brackets, obviously. Okay, so that will hopefully be the test. So we're making sure that first of all it's an array, obviously. And then we're checking that this is after we've done the perform start. We're making sure that array contains this message. So let's run this and see. And it's passed. Awesome. Okay, so now it's in a state where it can actually be tested, because we are assigning the messages to its own little container, the message queue container. Now, really, to be honest, we did an iterator pattern. So this could actually be an iterator. I can't say it. Iterable. It could be iterable. Rather than just a container for just that. But for this example, let's just continue on. So we're going to return that as an array. Okay, all right. So that's the performance of the start. I'm going to grab some of my tea. Okay, so the mediator design pattern then. Continuing on, let's sort this out. So this one here is adding that message to this queue here. So this get message queue, add message, and this is the message here. So we do message is equal to this stuff, taking away that new line because we don't need that at all. And then we should be able to run this again. So we should be able to put this in. changing that up. Excuse me. Okay, so let me tidy up the code a little bit. So this is perform action C. So in the test here, in the colleague A test, we should have that, in fact, perform action C. Action C. Before I do that, let's just see if the browser is actually working okay. Yes, it is. Can you see? So what I'm doing is slowly eating this alive by replacing all of the action outputs, putting them in the message queue and outputting the message queue here. This one here is perform, and the order is wrong, but it will sort itself out, because what's happening here is these two objects, they're talking to one another, and colleague B is being output here and colleague A is being put output there, but it will make sense hopefully eventually. So colleague A, this is now what sorry, no, scroll up. Colleague A, this is the next message that gets happened here. So we're going to grab all of that and we're going to put this into the test here, which is colleague A test. Put that in there. So this needs to be colleague A again. Fine, I need to speak. Fine, I need to go. Speak to you soon. Have a Merry Christmas. And I think that's that. Get messages. So we're checking whether it contains that message. Okay, let's run this. And it's failed. So failed asserting that failed asserting that an array contains this on line 38. On line 38. Oh, because I'm running perform start, what I need to do is run perform action C. There we go. Let's run that again. Okay, called to member, get name on null. Where am I running that? Get name on null. Colleague A on line 36. Colleague A, set the message queue, assert is array, perform action C. So there's nothing here about the name. So this is a problem with the name here. Get name. This get name. This get name is returning this name on null. What? Call to a member function, get name on null. Get name is in the same class. I don't understand this. That should. Oh, maybe it's the recipient. Ah, gotcha. It's the recipient. I need to set the recipient before I run action C. There we go. That makes sense. So the recipient. So at this point on action C, we require on perform A, we require colleague A to have set recipient based on colleague what do we call it? B. So we need to do a new colleague B. There we go. So let's run this again. Okay, so failed asserting that an array contains colleague A, have a Merry Christmas. This is because, is there a way I can find the difference between these two? No. This needs to be Merry Christmas, and this needs to be, if I go to perform action C here, this needs to be the name of the recipient. The recipient is colleague B. Colleague B's name is, I think, just colleague B. So there we go. Let's go up to user test here, colleague A test. And there we go. That's colleague B. So let's run that again. Hopefully that will succeed this time. And it does. Sweet. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, so that's that is colleague A's tests. Let's just call it tests, shall we? Let's All right, so we've done perform action C and we've done perform start. Colleague B then. Colleague B has the recipient would be colleague A, and we've got perform action A and perform action B and perform action D. So we've got these two here. So I am going to grab some tea because I'm really thirsty. And we're going to backfill these. So colleague A has get message queue, add message. So we're going to basically copy that and put this in here. I think though what we should do before we do that is run some failing tests. That would probably be a good thing to do. I think a good thing to do. So we can just copy colleague A test and we call this colleague B test like that. Not like that because that's BA. That's the name of an airline company. Not what we need here. Colleague with an E. There we go. So this is colleague A. Well, this is now colleague B. This is colleague B here. And we're going to run, first of all, we're going to check the name. The name should be colleague B. That's colleague C. What am I doing? That's colleague V. No, colleague B. There we go. Colleague B, get name. Good. So this is now a new colleague B. I'll tell you what, let's do a find and replace of colleague A to be colleague B, because that will probably make my life a little bit easier. Oh dear. He says, whilst putting in a lowercase b. There we go. All right. So this is colleague B. We are going to perform action A for that one. We're going to, this is colleague B here. We're going to perform action B, and this, we're going to have another one down here. I'm just going to copy this like that. And this is going to be colleague B, and this is perform action. We did B. What have we got? D. Okay, so let's perform action D. D, no, fat fingers, D. This is action B, and this is the action A. Now all of these are going to fail, action A. All of these are going to blow up in a fireball because we haven't checked changed the differences, nor have we actually set up the classes to do so. However, this should work, at least. The name should work. Yes, it does. Cool. But this will blow up in a cloud of smoke. Cool to undefined member get name on null. This is because when we do perform action A, we're requiring the recipient here. So what we need to do in these tests as well is not only do we set up the message queue, but we also have to set up the set recipient as well. And the recipient of colleague B is, of course, colleague A, like that. And I've got a feeling I'm going to need to do this for all of these. Now, I appreciate we must refactor the tests because there's a lot of duplication going on here. But first of all, let's get the tests to actually pass, shall we? That would work. So let's hit that. That's going to fail again because the call to member function notify on null. This is because we haven't supplied the mediator. Now I want the mediator to be optional. So what we need to do, like we've done with colleague B, colleague A, sorry, is we call this notify. This notify is what we've created for the parent mediator. So let's go to the parent colleague, sorry. So let's go to colleague B and fill all these in. So this notify should be event ask question 1, like that. We can remove that now. And this should be event ask question 2. We can remove that as well. And we should be able to, This one doesn't require a notification, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, so that should get around that error. So if we scroll down here a wee bit, go to here and run this again, we'll get another error, sure, but we should now have failed a certain, there, here we are, array contains colleague A, hello, is there anybody out there? So this is because we're not using the message queue like we were with colleague A. So with colleague A, we were passing the message to the message queue. So I'm going to do that again, but with colleague B. So with colleague B here on action A, instead of setting this as just an echo, which outputs, we're just going to do message is equal to that. Now this is this should also update the and we don't need that either. This should also update the page. So if I go to the page here and refresh, we should see another change. So here we go. We can now see that things are now starting to go in order. So we've got colleague A, hello, is there anybody out there? Colleague B, hello, colleague A, how are you? And then colleague A says, fine, I need to go, speak to you soon, have a Merry Christmas, colleague B. And then finally, that will come down here eventually once we've sorted that out. So it is slowly working. It's taking a while, but there is a lot of code change here. So get message queue, add message. So there we go. So this here needs to be the thing that we use in our test. So in colleague B test here, in its perform action A, this thing here. So this needs to be colleague B. And it needs to say hello, and it's this recipient. Now this recipient is colleague A, I believe. So if we do colleague A here, and then what we do is we run this test, and hopefully, fingers crossed, oh no, it is failing. Failed asserting that colleague B, is it because there's a space here, maybe? Yeah, now that's passed. Awesome, so that's passed. Wonderful. Okay, so that's good. So this now gives me a level of confidence that I can go through the others. So let's grab some tea. Okay, let's see. Colleague B. Let's tidy this up then. So here, down here, colleague A. Let's go into colleague B. The next one, let's just copy that, is this one here. So adding this to the message queue. So we do echo colleague, the other colleague, and we say that. So let's go, and we don't need the new line. Let's refresh the page and see. Why is that not perform action B? I'm okay. How are you? I'm okay. How are you? Colleague A. How are you? Hello, colleague A. How are you? So that perform action B. Maybe I'm not even calling that on colleague B test. Perform action B. Yeah, I am. I am calling that. So that's strange. Maybe I'm not even calling it in the actual view here on index. Anyway, let's worry about that later. Let's just focus on the tests. So this should be, if we go, this should fail, I think. Yeah. Because this requires that message. So if we go back to the test here, we have colleague B saying this thing here. And that changes to colleague A. Run the test. Still failing. Is it because I've got too much space there? Still failing. Colleague B, is that a question mark? Is that a question? Go back to colleague B. Yes, it is a question. There's a question mark at the end. Okay, so in here we put in a question mark. I think that is okay. Let's run that again. Yes, so that's passed. Sweet. Okay, so the next one, the next test is this one here. So this is performing action D. So with action D here, we do the same thing. We run message queue add message. This message queue add message, passing in that as the message itself, obviously removing this here. Oh, I know why we didn't get to that, because it was the way that the notification works. Fine, no worries. And this is goodbye and then comma that. So well, first of all, let's refresh this. There we go. So now we've updated the whole structure. So colleague A says, hello, is there anybody there? Colleague B says, hello, colleague A, how are you? Colleague A says, fine, I need to go. Speak to you soon. Have a Merry Christmas, colleague B. And colleague B says, goodbye, colleague A, have a great holiday. Wonderful. So that works. Let's just fix this test. So with colleague B, we are saying colleague B, goodbye, comma, and I think this needs to be colleague A. I think, is it goodbye and then comma, colleague A? I think that might work. Let's run that and see. Yes, that does work. Wonderful. Okay, so that's all tested now. I am happy with that. I'm happy with that. So, okay, let's do a quick recap of these tests, of all the tests. I could probably do it from here, probably. If we do code view tools terminal, and do I have? No, I don't. Can I do that? No, because I need to be in the code thing. Okay, so now we have 54 tests, 67 assertions. So I am feeling more confident with this. So what I'm going to do, I've got to shoot off in a minute just to, well, get on with the rest of my day. To be honest, I'm I'm in meetings and other various bits and pieces writing code. I'm also doing a bunch of tests. Actually, I'm doing a bunch of tests because I am in the current process of looking for new clients. So I'm doing a test for at least one at the moment, and I've got conversations with other clients later on today. And to be honest, the tests are design pattern tests, which is so cool. So this is all topical stuff. Cool. I'm going to see, I haven't done this before. I'm going to see, or I haven't done this before much. I'm going to see if there is anybody streaming. Let's see. Let's go over to, let's create a new window here. I want to see who is streaming. If there's anybody I know who is streaming around, because it would be nice to have a look. Is there anybody streaming? Let's check. No. Is they streaming? No. Oh, that's a shame. No. No worries. I will sort this out for the next stream. I think as someone as another stream to go to. What I wanted to do is set up a raid, but anyway, never mind. There's nobody streaming that I'm aware of, which is a bit sucky, but never mind. It's probably because I do it at the wrong time of day, but it would have been nice to have pushed it off to a raid. But anyway, we'll do it again probably on Sunday. So Sunday at 14:30, I think is correct. If not, I will let you all know on the Discord server. Do check that out. Do join, because we've got coding questions and everything. Take care, Tyranid. Thank you very much for joining. And also, just a quick thank you to Freak RO, Hawkey, Boldcap, Bob Volt, and Blade Runner 123456789 for all following as well. Thank you very much, guys and girls. Happy coding, everybody, and I will see you again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.